podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
No breaks. No breaks. No fear. No fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along, I'm Ian Brannan, and this week we reflect on the first round of a new competition in British Speedway, the Premiership Pairs. Joining me is the victorious team manager of that first round, Alex Brady of the Kings Lynn Stars. But it was a grand final that wasn't without incident.
It's just put a bit of a sour taste in my mouth to what, other than that was a good meeting.
Lots of reaction to come from the Premiership Pairs. That first round at Peterborough, we'll hear from Josh Pickering and Max Fricke, among others as well. We've got a special exclusive interview with Jason Crump this week, where he's talking all about life as a manager.
Kind of go through a lot of the same emotions, and you walk the track before the meeting and come back to the pits and pick your program up instead of getting changed.
We'll also hear from a man who's no stranger to team management, Peter Adams. His side defeated Sheffield for the first time this season, but even then, it wasn't enough to see them through to the Premiership League Cup final. But first, we're going to start by finding out more about what's happening at Edinburgh.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Lots to get through then, and joining me to talk through all of that and much more besides is the Kings Lynn Stars team manager, Alex Brady. Hi, Alex.
Thanks, Ian. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. And we're going to talk about everything to do with Kings Lynn and the Premiership Pairs in a few moments' time. But I want to start with some news that I think maybe surprised quite a few people on Tuesday morning. This news that Edinburgh are looking to secure their future at a new venue after the news that Speedway will cease at Armadale Stadium at the end of 2022. The West Lothian venue has been home to the Monarchs for 26 seasons, during which time the club have enjoyed their most successful era, with a host of trophies including 5 league titles. And the current stadium owners are ending their tenure as landlords. They intend to sell the site this year. Joining us, I'm very pleased to say, we have the chairman of the Edinburgh Monarchs, Alex Harkess. Welcome to No Breaks, No Fear, Alex.
Thank you.
Start, please, by explaining the situation, because I think this has come through as a bit of a shock to many Speedway fans. I certainly had to do a double take when I read the news this morning, and I know it's been a possibility maybe that things might turn out this way at some point at Edinburgh, but just explain the background to the situation, please.
Well, basically, the stadium is privately owned. The current owners are getting older now, and they were basically bought the stadium because at the time it was also a dog track, and they were dog people, and that was the reason they bought it. Unfortunately, the dog racing has long gone, so they've had no other activity in the stadium other than Speedway, and of course. Their interest in it is waned a bit over that length of time, and now they're just looking at probably their old age and their financial future. So they want to sell the stadium. It's as simple as that. We've known for quite some time that they've been keen to sell the stadium. To be truthful, they were keen to sell it to us, and I think they probably are still keen to sell it to us. And whilst we are looking for a new venue and we're looking for all options, one option, of course, is still that we can come up with the money to actually buy the stadium. But that's a big ask because it's a stadium's got a fair bit of ground with it, with all the car park and things like that. But these are the options we're looking at, and we're hopeful. We're certainly hopeful that Edinburgh Monarchs will not be finished this year.
So, looking at this then, how do you hope that the future is going to turn out now for Edinburgh? One of the options there, as you mentioned, is that you can also almost do like a buyout of the stadium yourselves. If that doesn't happen, is there anything in the pipeline of an alternative venue that you could move to?
There's plenty happening, but nothing is finalised. We have the full backing of the West Lothian Council, who are very, very keen for us to stay in West Lothian because we're recognised as probably one of the most successful sports in the county. They've got a lot of ground and own a lot of land, and I'm sure they're looking at sites which would be very favourable, because hopefully we'll be at a very favourable rates to go with it. So that is happening. But in the meantime, we're looking at all available pieces of ground to see if we could actually create a new stadium. Although one of the drawbacks, of course, is if you're starting from scratch, the eventual cost of that could be as much as buying Armadale, perhaps. But we don't know that because at the moment we've nothing secured.
So for people listening to this who want to help in some way and obviously secure the future of this, one of the most historic clubs in Speedway, almost 100 years old since its first incarnation, one of the oldest Speedway clubs in the world, I would imagine. What can people do to help you? What do you need now?
Once we have a plan of which way we're actually going, whether it's if, for instance, when we went to Armadale, once we got the planning permission that we could run in Armadale, then it all fell into place very quickly because we had so many volunteers at that time. Everybody came forward, absolutely everybody came forward, and it was amazing. And if we found a piece of ground, I'm sure everybody that can donate their trade or whatever the expertise is would very much appreciate it. Financial help is very important. If we've got enough financial help, then one way forward would be to purchase Armadale Stadium. I'd be delighted to do that because if we actually owned it, I'm sure we could do an awful lot in that stadium to make it a much nicer venue as well. But of course, over the last, more than just a few years, we've always had an uncertain future, so therefore never much money has been spent on the stadium to improve it, to take it to a higher standard, because you almost felt it was not money well spent because if we were going to be out at any time. So the President knows have tried to convert it to housing and trying to get building companies interested in buying, and probably still are trying to get that. But there seems to be quite a few obstacles in the way of building companies and making it not very financially secure. So whilst we're trying to secure our future, the actual future of Armadale Stadium is very uncertain as well.
Is it a possibility that your stay at Armadale could temporarily at least be extended beyond this season? Because if the stadium itself hasn't been sold, it's sort of beginning to look like, obviously not the same as, but similar to the situation with Coventry where you've got a stadium stood there that ends up doing nothing. I mean, you wouldn't want that, would you? Because if it's a viable stadium that you could stay at a little bit longer until things are fully sorted out one way or the other and give yourselves more time to get another location, perhaps.
Everything like that is possible. Everything like that is possible. If we came towards the end of the season, if it's what is the end of the season? Whether it's August, September, October, and nothing's happening at the stadium, it's available next year, then we can get another year at a time. But it's very difficult to keep planning your future. We can't start talking to riders for next season if we don't know where we are or what we're doing. And then for somebody to say to you in December, you can go next year, that's not ideal for us either, because the riders need to know what they're doing. We need to plan long before that. So anything is possible, but it's not a case of everything being left to the very last minute. Hence the reason we're making attempts now to try and clarify our future in the longer term.
All the very best of luck with it. I'm sure there's a long way to go yet, but it does sound fairly positive that whilst the worst case scenario, the Armadale years might be behind you, that there is still a future for the Edinburgh Monarchs.
There is not an idea in anybody's head up here that Edinburgh Monarchs are finished. Not for 1 second. We are positive, and whatever the outcome is, the main aim is that Edinburgh Monarchs survive and we take our place in the Championship next season, as we have done since the Championship was formed.
Well, one of the great names, and of course, even for Scotland as well. These derbies that you have, even very recently. That they're such major fixtures, and key parts of British Speedway as a whole that people look forward to those battles too. Well,
Edinburgh Glasgow, I think, is the fiercest local derby in British Speedway, without any doubt at all, and. For sure, they are our biggest crowds of the season. They create the most atmosphere, and there have been some tremendous matches over the years. And I'm sure they would be missed if they're ever missed. If they don't happen, I'm sure they would be missed. But hopefully, that's not the case.
Okay, well, if anybody can get in touch and help out, then please do contact the Edinburgh Monarchs. They'd love to hear from anyone who can help in their quest Absolutely. To keep going. And
several promoters from other clubs, even as far away as Len Silver, has made contact today. And I'm sure if we ask for help from anybody that know us, then I'm sure we'll get all the support we require. But it's nice of clubs to get in touch as well and wish us well.
Yeah, well, everybody wishes you well, and I've seen lots of nice comments on social media from all over the Speedway world, and everybody wants to see the Monarchs continue, and hopefully that is very much a given, and it's just a case of where that's going to be.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Alex Harkess, the chairman of the Edinburgh Monarchs. Joining me in this episode is the team manager at Kings Lynn Speedway, Alex Brady. Now, Alex, it's a concerning situation, but sounds like there is hope at Edinburgh at the moment. But they're not the first, and they won't be the last club to have someone who owns the stadium wanting to do different things with it. We see it all the time. We see that threat still looming over a number of clubs in British Speedway, even particularly, say, for example, Peterborough. There's question marks still around Swindon, where whilst the development work continues there's still that question as whether Speedway will be permitted back in or not, and obviously we hope that is the case. But these question marks continue, and sometimes it doesn't matter what the club do, the fate sometimes is in somebody else's hands.
That's right. Obviously we're very blessed at Kings Lynn to have Buster, for all his faults, he's a fantastic bloke with Speedway at the heart of everything he does. So we're incredibly lucky there to have him. But yeah, you're right. It is a worry because so many of these clubs don't own their own stadiums, as you mentioned, aren't necessarily in control of their own destiny. And it'd be a massive, massive shame to lose Edinburgh if that was the case. But I know that they're working hard behind the scenes to try and find a new home, and to try and I really hope it's a bit of a platform for them to actually come out of this the other side a bit stronger, and have secured a long-term future for them. But yeah, it is a worry, and obviously with taking my Speedway hat off and my day-to-day job hat on, development is something that's rife all around the country, and supply and demand at the moment in the housing sector is crazy. So any sort of spots of land is worth big money to these people that own them. So I can see why stadium owners are looking to go down that road. But I think Sport England and those kind of people need to do something about it, because we can't keep building houses and have nothing for these people to do and nowhere for these people to go.
Well, the future of Armadale very much in doubt, but never say never just yet. As Alex Harkess was suggesting, there may be a twist in the tale to come. Let's hear the thoughts, though, of long-serving Edinburgh captain Sam Masters, who's been reflecting on the news with Jamie Griffiths.
It's sad, really, because I've spent a lot of my glory days, really, racing in Edinburgh at Armadale, and it'll be sad to see it go. So I've had some good times there, and I've made the most of it, that's for sure. So I can't be too disappointed in that, but let's hope they find a new venue, and I'll support it as far as I can.
Yeah, is it like Armadale is a venue that must hold special memories for you? But just talk us through one of them.
Well, I had a year off racing in British Speedway in 2013, and I come back in 2014, and Edinburgh took the risk, I suppose, or believed in me, and I came and raced for Edinburgh in 2014, and we won the league, won the Knockout Cup, and won the Premier, the Cup, whatever that was. So I've had some awesome times there, and as well in 2015 we backed it up and won the league again. So 2014 was definitely one to remember, and I'll never forget that.
And the statement released by the club does seem quite upbeat considering the circumstances. Do you back the current set of owners to find a new venue?
To be honest, I think they've kind of known that this is coming for a little while now, and I've actually gone to see a few venues over the years with the clubs, and nothing's ever really been concrete. So hopefully that they can find somewhere and we can race again in 2023.
As long-serving Edinburgh captain Sam Masters reflecting on that news that's come out this week that Armadale's days may be numbered as a Speedway venue, but not the days of the Edinburgh Monarchs. But indeed, if you can help out the Edinburgh Monarchs in their quest to either save Armadale or find an alternative venue, then they would very much love to hear from you, and we'll keep you up to date with that story as it unfolds. You're listening to No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast. I'm Ian Brannan, and joining me this week is the team manager of the Kings Lynn Stars, Alex Brady. Alex, tell us about life then as a team boss, because you were brought into the club as team manager midway through last season. Of course, last year wasn't the greatest season for the Kings Lynn Stars, but whilst you may have been a new name to the world of team management in Speedway, you're certainly showing that you're finding your way through it, because this season has been a decent start. You find yourself in a cup final, winning the first round of the Premiership Pairs on Monday, beat Bellevue last week at home. It's looking up, but how's life in the manager's hot seat? Yeah,
I mean, last year had lots of different challenges. I think it's clear to see to everybody from the outside that we were dealing with lots of bits and pieces. But overall, it's been a really good experience. I learned a lot throughout the course of the 2021 season, which has then put us in good stead moving forwards for this year. And I think we're starting to see the green shoots now of what we tried to put into place with team spirit and etc. With the results we've had so far this year. But yeah, I've loved every minute, to be honest. There's been a few low moments, but overall, on the whole, it's been a really good fun and pretty successful so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's going well this season so far. What's the thing that you've probably learnt the most that you didn't realise about life as a team manager?
It's hard to implement your ideas a lot of the time because you spend so little time actually physically with these riders. I mean, I'm lucky that I've got a group at Kings Lynn that we all try to meet for a bite to eat prior to a meeting, sort of around 3 o'clock on a race day, particularly at home. But yeah, that's probably the hardest thing because lots of your work is done via WhatsApp or video call or whatever it might be. So that's the hardest thing, I would say. Just and then one moment they're riding for you in the Premiership and against another rider from the opposition, and that the night later they're on the same team as that rider in the Championship League. So it's hard to kind of create a bit of a togetherness in that respect as well, because each rider obviously has their own schedule. But yeah, it's challenging, but nothing we can't overcome.
There does seem to be a good team spirit among Kings Lynn, certainly from my view on the outside, I suppose. They do, the riders do seem to be together and seem to get on, and when we've had riders on here chatting about how things are going so far this season, there does seem to be that togetherness. So you've achieved it.
I think so. I mean, when I built the team over the winter with the help of Dale, I had one brief, and it's been well documented, I spoke to lots of riders throughout the winter, and I wanted to go for a bit of a different approach where I could have signed what are on paper probably slightly better riders than what we'd signed and what, if you looked at just the statistics of it, but I had lots of conversations with lots of different people, and I was more interested in trying to build a group of people that I felt then could gel together and work together and work for the same common goal, which obviously you would expect from the other side of the fence, but it's not quite as simple as that sometimes. And obviously you have to make sure the blend is correct of the characters you bring in, and does this rider get on with that rider, and is this rider going to be able to team ride with this rider, and all those different bits and pieces you put into the pot. And yeah, I suppose I was a bit lucky in the end with Niels coming in and staying. That's been a massive positive for us. But the other 6 was all by design, and I think so far so good in that respect. And it's a long way to go until October, where we hope to be still racing. But yeah, so far so good.
See, you talked about the level of thought that went into putting your team together. Tell us how you felt when you got that call to say your main man, Peter Kildemand, wouldn't be able to take his place in the team because of injury, because that must have been a bit of a hammer blow to those plans. Yeah, it was really tough. So I got the call from Peter to say that he had injured his shoulder in a practice over in Poland. And to be honest with you, for about half an hour, I just didn't want to speak to anybody. My whole winter of planning sort of come crashing down a little bit. But you do what you do. You take stock of the situation. You think, right, what can we do to get through this? We've still got 6 very good riders here. We just need one more. And obviously, at that top end, the quality has been in short supply a little bit over the last couple of years in England. But we were really grateful to Niels for stepping in. Grateful for the PZM for their cooperation to do that. And then for their continued cooperation for him to be able to stay. So, whilst I'm really gutted Peter couldn't come over, because I was really excited to see him race, particularly at Kings Lynn as well, I don't think we could have got much better replacement, really, and particularly someone so synonymous with the modern day era of Kings Lynn Stars. Yeah, absolutely, because he's already a club legend, and I think many people will be looking at, ordinarily you'd be looking at other previous riders. Of course, Robert Lambert would be the golden one, but of course, as you mentioned, these restrictions that are in place at the moment put a stop to that, don't they? So it was great that you managed to get an agreement with the Polish authorities to allow Niels to be able to continue to ride. Yeah, Dale put in a lot of hard work from a Kings Lynn perspective. I know, Alex up at Edinburgh as well did a good job for us as well in the IBSL. So, yeah, it's good to try and rebuild these relationships with the PZM and the other authorities in other countries, because I think as time goes on, we will need each other a lot more. I know Poland have tried to go out on their own a little bit last couple of years, but I think they've realised actually Speedway needs us all to work together as an overall package. So I think they're sort of viewing Niels almost as a bit of a guinea pig trial to see, look, can this work again in a post-COVID world, or post-COVID restriction world, should we say? And then hopefully, all being well, it'll open the floodgates a bit more for next season for some more riders to come back, because ultimately we're keen to try and improve the product where we can, and that can only help by bringing, as you mentioned, people like Robert Lambert or, your Ty Wolfenins of the world, or whoever it might be, Dan Bewley, all those types of riders back to the UK would be excellent. So, yeah, hopefully this project can work well, and Niels enjoys himself, which he's enjoyed himself so far, and manages the schedule, and hopefully, as I say, opens some doors for the future. Kings Lynn team manager Alex Brady is our guest throughout this episode of No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast. And it was his team who were victorious in the opening round of the new Premiership Pairs competition after a dramatic finish to Monday's meeting at Peterborough. We'll talk all about that. We'll get reaction from some of those involved, including Kings Lynn's own Josh Pickering. We'll hear from Max Fricke, Simon Stead and Rob Lyon, and much more to come besides as well here on No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Ian Brannan. Still to come, we're going to hear from Jason Crump, an exclusive interview on this podcast from Jason Crump, talking about life as a team manager and how that compares with being a rider. Which life does he prefer, and how are they so different? Discover more in just a while. Right now, let's talk about the Premiership Pairs competition, which happened on Monday. If you were not present at the East of England Arena, perhaps you were watching on the British Speedway Network, because the whole series has been live streamed by British Speedway Network. And it was the Kings Lynn Stars who won the opening round of the Premiership Pairs after a dramatic finish to Monday's meeting. We'll talk all about that, all the ins and outs, and some interviews coming up with those involved, including Max Fricke, Josh Pickering, Simon Stead and Rob Lyon, all to come. But first of all, Alex Brady, team manager at Kings Lynn Stars. You won the first round, but just a general overview from you about the competition, how you found it, and really what it brings to British Speedway, because top riders all on show. It's a great occasion. Some of the heats were of Grand Prix quality. It's been a great addition to the calendar. Yeah, it was a really good event, and I like the idea of bringing more meetings in. I like the idea of it being a bit more tactical in the sense of, right, you're off 2 and 4 as a team, but which rider goes off 2, which rider goes off 4. It's almost like a Heat 15 every race, really, which was
which is a good concept. And I think last night, because of the weather, you'll see that most teams use their rising star quite late into the meeting because worried about could we get to the full 17 heats in. So I'm interested to see how that pans out over the coming rounds, when people use their rising stars, etc. But it was a great concept, fantastic riders on the show, and obviously you're delighted to have a Kings Lynn win, really, because I think from outside quarters I don't think many people gave a huge chance, but we know what we're capable of, and we're confident wherever we go. If it's a pairs as a team, we know what we're capable of. So we turned up there hoping to win and planning to win as obviously as we ended up. But I don't think many people outside of Norfolk gave us much of a chance.
I think some bookies I read somewhere were offering 18-1 for Kings Lynn to win the meeting last night. So if you had a flutter, you might maybe somebody did pretty well out of that. But
a couple of my friends, are keen, like a go, and a couple of them text me to say well done. So I'm sure they had a couple of quid on that. So fair play to them.
Good stuff. Well, that's all right when it works out that way. Talking about the tactics involved, obviously you look at it on the face of it, you've only got 2/3 riders to manage, but you were a busy man. I think all the team managers were picking gates. We saw, I think more often than not, Josh Pickering seemed to be going off the outer gates. He was having a lot of success out there, and that seemed to be where the line was for a good proportion of the meeting as well.
Yeah, generally speaking, of the two we had, Josh is an outside rider a lot of the time. He can do it both sides, no problem. But he generally tends to find his success more coming from the dirt. And Rich is one of the best gators in British Speedway, in my opinion. So him coming off the inside, just getting to that curb as quick as he could, it seemed to work quite well for us. So hence why we stuck in with that. And as with any pairs competition, obviously the mantra is no last places, and aside from Jack, we only ran one. So I was pleased with what we did, and that was the tactic from the start. But to be honest, I offered the gate positions out to them more so than me picking them, because they felt they knew what was working, what was how they were riding, and what they could do. I like to offer the responsibility out to the riders where I can, because at the end of the day they're there to win. They know what it takes to win. I'm there to guide them, and in the final they were sort of not having a squabble, but interested to know which one could take which gate, so I picked it for them. But beside that, generally speaking, they worked really well together.
Well, it was Kings Lynn who, of course, won the opening round of the Premiership Pairs after a dramatic finish to the meeting on Monday, with Josh Pickering and Richard Lawson defeating the Sheffield duo Jack Holder and Adam Ellis, with the British champion crashing heavily at the start of the last lap. We'll talk more about that in a sec, but first of all, let's hear from Josh Pickering, who had a terrific night on the bike, and he's speaking with Hayley Bromley from the British Speedway Network.
It's the result we come here for. We've probably been looked over as the undercard type thing, but I prefer that. It's the spotlight's off us and we can just focus on doing what we have to do. But throughout the night, all my heats, I was glad to score and no last places, and I think we only got one through the night, which is great, and that's the trick in this form. You got to make sure there's no last places, and you got to pack them second and thirds up if you can't win the race. But again, it was a good run meeting. Track prep was perfect, like last week when they were here on telly with Bellevue, was a little bit choppy, and I feel today was better for racing, and that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. You had to get to the finals the hard way, though. The Bellevue boys, as you say, they were fantastic against the Peterborough Panthers when you were commentating. But that was an interesting experience. But obviously, Max Fricke fell off, kind of did you a little bit of a favour. But do you think you could have got there regardless of whether or not Max came off?
Yeah, absolutely. We're already there. So it's a shame for Max, but it would have been the same result.
Absolutely. On to round two. Now you guys are the ones with the targets on your back. Do you like being the men being chased, or do you like to do the chasing?
Oh, either. Like I said, when we come into here, we probably were overlooked. But now, when we come into it, they'll be knowing we're here. They'll be looking and they'll be knowing that every race they come into with us, it's not going to be an easy one. So something to look forward to. When Richard, he was a late call up when Niels was meant to be in the team, and he was unreal. So I'm happy. I'm stoked. It's great for the club. Last year they had a lot of misfortune and a lot of chopping and changing, and didn't really win anything. So I know it's only early doors and there's 6 rounds of this. However, it's a good starting point, and I'm glad to be winning something for them.
So there's Josh Pickering of the Kings Lynn Stars, and he scored 15 points in the Premiership Pairs as Kings Lynn took the victory on the night. We'll talk more about that grand final in a little moment, but just a word about Josh Pickering. We've talked about how exciting he is, but tell us about this side competition the Aussies have all got going this season. I'm not sure if it's something that goes on every season, but the Australians, when they're out racing against each other, there's this side competition for top Aussie almost, isn't there, and having this little battle between themselves.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and Josh is. I speak to Josh a lot about that, and he's. There's some brilliant riders within it, and it's great to see obviously the two Aussie GP boys back in the UK for starters, Jason and Max Fricke. But Josh has got aspirations to get to that level, and not in the too distant future as well. So he's keen to win that mini league this year to try and work his way into some spots for GP qualifiers, etc. in the future. And again, there's some fantastic quality. I mean, Ryan Douglas is absolutely flying this year, and he's one of those riders that goes under the radar a little bit, perhaps sometimes, given he's in the same team as Sam. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. And obviously Jack Calder at Sheffield, he's again. So you got all three of the GP riders, Australian GP riders in this country. It's great to see. It's great for British Speedway. But yeah, Josh has assured me he's going to win that mini league. So we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, always exciting to watch. Back to the Premiership Pairs then. Kings Lynn had to face the Bellevue Aces in the semi-final in order to qualify to meet Sheffield in the grand final, because they won things after the 15 heats. But that semi-final, there was a few twists in it. Certainly one big twist involving Max Fricke, who came unstuck, having been faultless all night, and just shows in Speedway you just never know. Definitely, and to be honest, that semi-final reminded me a lot of the Speedway Nations final from last season, actually. So yeah, I mean, it was we knew what we had to do, sort of get in for second and third, and that would be enough. And I felt a bit for Max, because he went for a big move, and the material underneath him was just a bit soft, and he lost it. But credit to him, he got up off the track and came through. And as he came off the track, he shook my hand, said well done. And yeah, so big respect to him for that. So getting through to the final was crucial. We were slightly surprised in the semi-final, to be honest, to be going off gates 1 and 3, because 4 had been working really well earlier in the night, but as the night had gone on, we felt that 1 and 3 was the better 2 gates. So we were surprised to go off those, pleasantly surprised in the semi-final, and then obviously that posed a slightly different challenge in the final, going off 2 and 4. So yeah, we went over game plan, and yeah, obviously it worked. It was a good night for the Bellevue Aces, and barring that tumble, it obviously might have been a different story. Max Fricke certainly had a perfect night up until that little spill, but he's up and he's fine, and he's been speaking to Hayley Bromley.
Yeah, all good. I got out of it okay, actually. So it's good to get a podium place for the boys tonight. It's a great way to start the championship and put us in a good position to hopefully have some good results over the next few rounds, and hopefully we can be up the pointy and come the end of the championship.
Absolutely. 8 points on the overall standings, though, so we're in bronze medal position at the moment, on their way to Ipswich for round number 2. We finished our qualification places with 24 points here at Peterborough, so that was pretty good going from yourself and Brady Kurtz.
Yeah, we did well over the course of the night, and obviously it's tricky, when to put out Tom and different races. But overall, I think it's a solid night for us and a great start, so we can build on that and improve hopefully over the next few rounds.
And Tom Brennan obviously got an opportunity to have a race here as well. He does like the Peterborough track, but it has been challenging for him tonight.
Yeah, it's always tricky coming in throughout the meeting. Missing the first couple of heats and then having a go. It's always a bit of a shot in the dark, and you're guessing a little bit with setups. So he did really well to go out there and have a good crack, but it is tricky in those heats towards the end of the meeting or middle of the meeting.
It's a bit of a different competition as well, the scoring system. You guys had to get used to that a little bit over the course of the night, but have you enjoyed yourself here?
Yeah, it's been a fun event, and it's great to come down here, and I think the racing was pretty good tonight, and it was pushed through pretty quick with the weather, so it all ran smooth.
Just before I let you go, a quick word on the upcoming Grand Prix at the weekend. We keep going on about your performance at Warsaw. Can we see more of that from Max Fricke in the next one?
I'd like to think so. Obviously, it's a different Grand Prix, a new track, and a fresh start. So I just need to go out there and put my head down and try and pick up the best result I can on the night.
There's Max Fricke reflecting on picking up 3rd place for the Bellevue Aces in the first round of the Premiership Pairs. Of course, there's a round at every track, and it will be Bellevue who have the home advantage in the very final one, and that could well be key. Who knows yet, but September, the National Speedway Stadium will be the host venue for the final round we'll keep you up to date, of course, here on the British Speedway podcast. Now, it all boiled down to the Sheffield Tigers versus the Kings Lynn Stars in the grand final, and that final heat certainly wasn't without incident. There was a bit of a tangle involving Richard Lawson and Adam Ellis, resulting in Adam Ellis finding his way into the fence, and it was Adam Ellis who was adjudged to be the primary cause of the incident. Alex Brady, what are your views on it? Because I know at the time you wouldn't have seen many replays. Have you managed to see it back yet, and what do you think?
I mean, at the time, without trying to do a sort of an Arsene Wenger on it, I didn't really see the incident at that present moment, because I was watching Josh, because I knew that Richard was in second, and if Josh had come through from fourth to third, then we would obviously win. So I caught the very ending of it, where I saw Adam. It looked to me like Adam had changed line ever so slightly to try and get back around Rich, because Rich had obviously gone on the inside and he went in at high speed. So first and foremost, best wishes to Adam. He seemed okay in the pits after, if he wasn't a little frustrated, but physically he seemed okay. So I'm glad that was the case, because it was one of those where the place went silent for a couple of seconds. You never quite know at that speed what the outcome's going to be, and I was relieved to see him get to his feet. But just before we came on air to you now, Ian, I did just see a short clip of it, and I think it's really one of those six or one half dozen the other, because Rich is in front. The name of the game in the pairs is obviously second and third. Slow the race up for your partner if you're in second and he's in fourth, which is what I believe Rich was trying to do. He's really not a dirty rider at all. There's been times over the last year that I've worked with him where I felt actually he's been a bit too fair to other riders, perhaps. So it's difficult, isn't it? Like I've said elsewhere, if I was in Adam's shoes or Steady's shoes, I'd probably feel aggrieved. But for me, Rich was in front, and he has a right to choose his line, I suppose. So I don't think you're never going to get everybody to agree on that decision, whatever way it went. But obviously we'll take the positives and take the win, and I'm sure Sheffield will come back fighting at Ipswich when we go there in a couple of weeks' time.
The thoughts of Kings Lynn boss Alex Brady. What about the thoughts of his opposite number, Simon Stead, team boss at the Sheffield Tigers, about that incident and round one of the Premiership Pairs? He's been speaking to Dave Rowe.
Just a little bit disappointed it kind of got to that. I think Richard was a little bit naughty in that race, but I think second place on the night is, although I'm disappointed, it's still a reasonable result for us with plenty more races left in the series. So I think we showed our form through the night. We rode well, we rode consistently, we raced well as a team. And look, if that's a sign of things to come, then I don't think we'll have too much of a problem.
The important thing is that Adam Ellis is okay, because that was one big crash into the fence there.
Well, that's the thing when you're riding so quickly around here, and something like that happens in front of you. You don't get any time to react, and you're going too quick to do anything about it. So, like you said, the most important thing is he's up and going to be fit for our next meeting.
So obviously we saw Richard Lawson looking for his partner, which obviously is what pairs racing is about, but you felt that the move was a bit too much, or that it forced Adam to move so violently towards the right and then obviously lose control?
Oh, I think through the race, naturally Richard was looking for his partner, but as he was doing that, he was getting slower and slower and slower, and then coming into the first and the second corner, he slowed up too much and dropped himself down on the inside, which gave Adam absolutely no option at all. He was committed to racing on the inside, and things like that happen. But I think Richard's an experienced racer and probably knows better than that, and it's just put a bit of a sour taste in my mouth to what other than that was a good meeting.
Okay, thanks a lot. Cheers. Thank you.
Sheffield team manager Simon Stead there. Joining us in this episode is the Kings Lynn team manager Alex Brady, and perhaps now the next meeting with Sheffield is going to have a bit of extra spice about it. Of course, the two of you are going to be facing each other in that Premiership League Cup competition final as well, not least as well the Premiership Pairs again at Ipswich in June, and a bit of extra spice maybe between the two sides this year.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, Sheffield have got a really good side, and Steady's a fantastic manager and a great guy as well. So looking forward to locking horns with those in the final. And you're right, last night I think it's going to add a bit of extra spice to it as well. So all I would say is to anyone listening, get down to the tracks for those two meetings, because it's going to be it's going to be hard, and it's going to be interesting. And there can only be one winner, so should be good fun. But yeah, they look a good side this year. They really do, and I'm sure they'll be up there. And if we race them a few more times this season, it means we're doing something right.
Absolutely. Well, the next round of the Premiership Pairs is going to be in mid-June. June the 16th at Ipswich is the next round, when the scores will continue. Of course, the scores are going to accumulate over the course of the 6 rounds, the final round being at Bellevue in September. But Kings Lynn Stars kicking off with 12 points on the board there, Alex. It's a good start, and that gives you a fair lead over Sheffield, who came away with 8 points.
Yeah, I like the scoring system. It rewards success. So obviously, if you win the bulk of the rounds, then you should, in theory, go on to win the competition, which is obviously the aim. Of course, it is. And yeah, I think it's a really good system. And like I said earlier on, extra meetings for the fans is good. Obviously, the threat of the rain last night didn't help the attendance, but from what I gather, the stream was fairly well supported. And hopefully, people can come out and see now. Actually, look, this is producing some good riders, good racing. Come along to Ipswich, come along to Kings Lynn, and in the 3 other rounds as well up in the sort of the northern section. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to see how this one pans out, and hopefully when it comes around to September at Bellevue, we'll be right in the mix still.
Just a quick word about Peterborough, finally, because they were the team that held home track advantage, and it was a funny old evening, really, because if they weren't winning, they were losing in terms of with the pairings out there. Of course, this is a competition that rewards team riding and coming over the line, together or one after the other, but not coming over last. And Michael Palmtoft and Chris Harris both won heats in their own right through the course of the meeting, or came second, but they just couldn't manage to come over the line together.
Yeah, I was surprised, to be honest. I thought they were going to be a strong force. I know Peterborough haven't had the season they were hoping for so far this year, but with that lineup last night, whilst I was confident, I think it was almost impossible to pick a winner, really, because as you rightly mentioned earlier on, it's sort of Grand Prix standards in lots of those heats, and heat 15 equivalents of every race. So someone's got to win, someone's got to come last, and it could be complete opposite way around when we go to Ipswich in June. But I think that I was slightly surprised at the way Peterborough did, because they didn't quite do it together. As you mentioned, Tofty, a fantastic ride against Ipswich, coming up the inside of Jason Dorr. It was probably the ride of the night, really. And then Bomb had some good races as well, but these didn't quite click together, which was a Kings Lynn problem for the team last season, actually. So I know how Rob probably felt last night.
Well, let's hear the thoughts of Rob Lyon now, speaking to Hayley Bromley on the British Speedway Network.
It's pretty much how our season started, really. Well, not completely from day one, but recently, and we've not been consistent as a team. And tonight we were exactly the same. Bomber was winning a race, Tofty was last, and vice versa. So in this type of competition, you need to be filling those seconds and thirds if you can't get your maximum heat wins. So unfortunate and frustrating to finish last on your home track is not good, but 5 more rounds yet, so a long way to go.
Long way to go, Ned, and likewise with the season, obviously. Still plenty of time for the Peterborough boys to bounce back onto Ipswich for round 2 next. Are you going to be sticking with the same boys?
Don't know yet. We'll look at it. New averages come out by then, so we'll have a look and see who's doing what, and make a decision a bit nearer the time.
Absolutely. I mean, to be fair on the boys, we've had some great racing here at Peterborough tonight. This track always produces some exciting stuff, like nice bit of a controversy in heat number 17 there. But do you think the Peterborough boys, can we get back into the mix?
Oh, sure, for sure, yeah. It's early days yet. Like I say, 5 more rounds to go. We've got lads that go well around Ipswich, all those tracks, so I'm sure we'll be fine.
So round 1 down, and it's the Kings Lynn Stars who have the lead in the tournament so far, claiming 12 points. Sheffield Tigers claiming 8 points on the evening, and for finishing second. 6 points go to the Bellevue Aces. 4 points go to the Ipswich Witches, and no points, nil points, to the Peterborough Panthers. But as Rob Lyon correctly mentions there's plenty of time to go yet, and the next round will be at Vauxhall. Ipswich hosting the next round of the Premiership Pairs in mid-June. June the 16th will be the date, which is a Thursday, and then after that it moves on to Kings Lynn in July on the 7th. The 18th of July at Monmore Green for Wolverhampton's round. Sheffield host it on the 18th of August. And in September, it all ends up at the National Speedway Stadium when Bellevue host their round on September 22nd. So that's how the Premiership Pairs looks. Just looking at the Premiership itself, back to last week, because we had a couple of fixtures, well, one fixture in particular in the Premiership, and that was Kings Lynn Stars versus the Bellevue Aces. And it was a pretty good win, actually, Alex Brady, for Kings Lynn, overhauling Bellevue 50-40 on the night.
Yeah, it's really pleasing. I mean, I know there were obviously a couple of riders like from there 1 to 7 with no Jai Etheridge and no Matty Zagar, but I know Tofty came in and did a fantastic job. I mean, Michael Palm Tofty is a number one around Kings Lynn. He got double figures, so he did very, very well. But yeah, from our perspective, it was a solid night. I mean, Niels didn't have his best night, Louis didn't have his best night, Richie didn't, but the others all stepped up and took on responsibility. To be honest, I was most pleased with Jack Thomas. Got 6 points down at reserve, fantastic win in Heat 2. You know, he's been fantastic for us so far this season. He's going under the radar a little bit too. But to beat Bellevue 50-40, to beat him by anything is good. But to send him home with no points was the plan. And yeah, delighted to achieve that. And yeah, take 4 points in that week was a good week.
It's still obviously very early days in the Premiership campaign, although it is a relatively short season as well, with the 6 clubs in the league. As you look at it so far, I mean, Bellevue are clearly at the top, but they've ridden more than anybody else. But the rest of the sides are, you know, there's only a couple of points in it so far, and we saw that last night in the Premiership Pairs. It was all very tight between all of the sides, very, very evenly matched, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all pans out through the course of this year.
Definitely, yeah. It's a very competitive league this year, and whilst Bellevue, as you say, have started strongly, they've had more matches than most. Sheffield, for me, still look a very, very good side as well. That top five is absolutely excellent. But it could be any one of the 6 this year. Whereas obviously last year there was 2 cut adrift, ourselves and Ipswich, from a fairly early stage. I don't think that'll happen this year. I think it could go right to the wire. Who gets into the playoffs and who in that finishing order within that 2. And as long as we're in that top 4, then that's target 1 achieved, and then anything's possible from there on in.
Meanwhile, there was another fixture taking place in the Premiership League Cup, and that was that final one between Sheffield and Wolves. And it's a bit of a twist in the tale, because it was Wolves who claimed the victory on the night at Ullerton, overhauling Sheffield for the first time in 5 meetings, and it went down to the last heat, 46-44, the final result. But overall, it left the 2 sides level on 9 points at the top of the Northern Group, and so they had to take race points difference into account, and that result meant the Tigers were left on plus 18, Wolves on plus 16, as the South Yorkshire side went through by the narrowest of margins. Every point counting there on the track, and quite a twist to the tale, but Sheffield going through to the final to face Kings Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't see that coming. Sheffield have been very dominant in that group so far. And rode fantastically well. And I was expecting, if I'm honest, a fairly routine home win. But fair play to Wolverhampton. I mean, they've packed that top 5 again. It's packed full of great riders, and at reserve, I know they've got some spoilers. It didn't quite work for them on that night, but friends of mine that were at the meeting said that's probably the best 0 you'll ever see from Drew Kemp. He rode his socks off. So yeah, I was really surprised, because obviously we were racing. I had my phone off, and then people were telling me throughout the night how it was going, and try to ignore it because we're focused on the job in hand at home to Bellevue. But yeah, I was shocked, and as I say, credit to Wolverhampton. They're obviously a fantastic side, and to beat Sheffield, I don't think many teams will do that this year at Sheffield. So yeah, it was fascinating to go down to the wire, and obviously that's what we do it for.
And that's the other element, isn't it? Because Sheffield at that point were 5 matches unbeaten quite a while on home shale, and so whilst Sheffield are the ones who progressed through to the final, you know, that win, that victory for Wolverhampton, and the significance of it certainly isn't lost on the likes of Peter Adams.
Definitely not. Peter Adams is a shrewd character. He knows what he's doing, but they obviously had a tough meeting against Ipswich at home where they lost, which again I don't think many people would have called. They beat us fairly convincingly. We weren't at full strength that night, but I think it just shows the competitiveness and the competitive nature of this league this year, that anyone can beat anybody. It is a cliche, but anyone really can beat anybody in this league. And it's why I think this year is probably going to be one of the best years we ever have, because everybody, to me, could top that league, or any one of those 6 teams could finish bottom. I'm sure there'll be changes between now and the end of the season for certain teams as well. So it's going to be really, really interesting when we reach the end of September, and who's in those playoff places, who's not, and who finishes top and gets the pick of, gets the ride against the 4th place team and home advantage in the second leg, etc. It's going to be a fascinating year, I'm sure.
Well, we can get the thoughts of the Wolverhampton team boss, Peter Adams. He's been speaking to Mike Taylor from BBC Radio WM after that victory at Overton, but still not quite enough to take them through to the final of the League Cup.
You've won and fallen short. It's a strange one.
Yeah, it's very frustrating to go out of the competition on the strength of one race point, which effectively is what it is. And I'm super proud of the boys with the performance they gave. They rode their hearts out, all of them. Ryan Douglas clearly, isn't and wasn't fit. And on point, Ryan Douglas, we would have won here, I think, comfortably. Drew Kemp, shed a chain in E2, leading by a mile. So there are a number of areas where we can see where that point might have been dropped, but at the end of the day, it was a terrific performance, and it was a good measure, I think, of just where we're at the minute.
Well, I mean, there is a lot of encouragement there, as you say, and the fact that even within just taking this meeting in isolation, you were half a dozen points down and up against it, and fought back really strongly in the closing heat.
Yeah, as I said, the boys were determined at the start, and although things seemed to be slipping halfway through, we got back into the match once we got on the right gates. Gate 3 was a graveyard virtually all night until the end. But no, I think there's a huge amount of positives to be taken from it, and we wish Sheffield all the best in the final, of course.
Wolves team manager Peter Adams there, reflecting on a victory against Sheffield, but not quite enough to get them through to the final of the Premiership League Cup. As far as Kings Lynn are concerned, Alex, next for you, it's the Peterborough Panthers, who are you expecting a bit of a wounded animal, a wounded cheetah to the Adrian Flux Arena, because obviously the start of the season has been a bit disappointing, but you know that they've got strength in depth there, and they're going to be wanting to put things right, aren't they, soon?
Yeah, I mean, they're good riders, and I'm sure they'll get it right when they all click together. They'll get it right. It's a bit like us last year, really, where 3 or 4 performing on a night, and that was it. Where I think people are having a similar story so far. So there's too much experience in there for them not to get it right at some point. And Ben Basso at reserve is fantastic. He was brilliant when he came to Kings Lynn in the Premiership Cup earlier in the season. So I'm expecting a tough meeting. I'm expecting it to be nip and tuck throughout, but as I've said elsewhere previously in other meetings as well, as long as we do our job and focus on ourselves, then we'll be absolutely fine, and the target would be again sending them home with 0 and us with 3. So yeah, that's the game plan.
Coming up then in the next part of No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast, shining a light a little bit on the championship, we've got an exclusive interview with Jason Crump talking about life as a team manager at the Oxford Cheetahs. And we'll hear from Eric Riss. It's been a busy weekend for Redcar last weekend. They raced at Edinburgh home and away. We'll hear from Eric Riss in the next part of No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along, I'm Ian Brannan, joined by Alex Brady, the team manager at the Kings Lynn Stars. And we're about to be joined by another team manager, because Jason Crump swapped a prolific career on the track, multiple world champion, racing all over the world at the very highest level, for the manager's office at Oxford Cheetahs earlier this year. He's joint team manager alongside Peter Schroek, but obviously a very different discipline to what he's used to. And Ryan Guest caught up with Jason Crump to find out a little bit about how things are going for him so far and the differences between life on the track and life off it. With a programme in your hand, telling riders what to do and arguing with referees, all that kind of thing.
Well, Jason Crump, obviously this season's a bit of a different one for you after last season into a team management role at Oxford. How are you finding it early doors?
Yeah, it's good fun. It's very different than riding. You kind of go through a lot of the same emotions, and you walk the track before the meeting and come back to the pits and pick your program up instead of getting changed. But it's enjoyable and keeps me involved with Speedway, so I'm pretty happy to be doing it at the moment.
Yeah, what are the key differences, do you think, between the management and rider role, apart from not getting over the bike, obviously?
It's by the time it all happened, I wasn't involved in the team building, so from that side of it, I can't really comment. But like at the meetings, it's you feel part of it, and you kind of get it emotionally involved as well because you form relationships with the riders. So it is very enjoyable, and of course sometimes a little difficult when you see a performance that you're not happy with. They can't kind of turn around to me and say, yeah, go and do it yourself. I probably could sometimes, I suppose, but no, it's good, and like I said, the involvement's still there with Speedway, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, from the way I understand it as well, Peter Schrowick taking on the tactical side of things, if you like. You're perhaps more in a mentor coach role as well, but nevertheless probably picking up the rule book as you go along as well.
As a rider, you pretty well know the rule book decent. Obviously with the guests and rider replacements and all that sort of stuff, you figure that out. I can't have a ride this week and everybody else can, but yeah, I mean, Pete and I have been friends for probably close to 30 years, I would say, and to have him here as well is important for me because I've got to learn and understand, and a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, putting the teams in and declaring and everything, that's all down to him.
Is this a route you see yourself staying in for further down the line?
Yeah, for sure. It's enjoyable, and Jamie and Kevin at Oxford are keen to move the Speedway forward. They've got a lot of good ideas that aren't necessarily Speedway ideas. So yeah, I do actually, yes.
Yeah, and it's a great story with everything that's happened with the Cheetahs as well.
It is a great story, and the crowds that we've had so far this year have been great. Team performances haven't quite been where we want them, but it's still, we're not halfway through the season yet, so we've still got time to improve. And we've got a bunch of guys that get on pretty well. They're a good bunch. They're a bunch of professional guys. Just yet, we haven't had one meeting actually, where everybody's clicked at their best. So I think if we can get to everybody at 90% on the same night, will be a big step forward. And if we can hit that magical 100% performance from everybody, then I think we're a pretty decent team.
Yeah, definitely. From your individual role once again, a few weeks ago we heard you live on Eurosport commentating with Kelvin Tatum as well. I know you've done a few Grand Prix in previous years as well. Again, is that something you'd perhaps like to do a little bit more of?
Yeah, that's enjoyable as well. Obviously, we all know what's happened with Nigel and the sad loss Speedway suffered there. I think Eurosport are just finding their feet a little at the moment, just trying to figure out how they're going to do it and keep it going. So yeah, I'm hoping that I can be a little bit more involved with that. But I do have a day job, so it's there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, and just finally, from a different perspective, the Speedway Grand Prix, some really entertaining opening rounds, and great to have Cardiff back on the calendar in August this year as well, an occasion you always loved.
Yeah, absolutely. Cardiff was like a home Grand Prix for me most of the time, so yeah, I did love Cardiff, and I'm looking forward to being there this year.
Many thanks for speaking to us, Jason.
Thanks.
As we all are, can't wait. It's coming. It'll be here before you know it. Jason Crump reflecting on life as a manager with Ryan Guest there. Our main guest in this episode is Alex Brady, team manager of the Kings Lynn Stars. We were talking at the start of this about Edinburgh's situation, and Alex Harkess making it clear that the Edinburgh Monarchs are not going anywhere, even though their track might be, but we'll have to wait and see how that all pans out. But great to have some old names coming back into the sport this year. Obviously with Oxford this year, but there's talk about what's going on at Northside and Workington as well, and they may be on the way very soon. So always great to get these new tracks back into the sport, because we need more in the sport.
Oxford coming back is brilliant. I mean, Jack Thomas, our rising star, is loving life down there, really enjoying himself. And if Workington can come back and we can see some more tracks making a return, perhaps Bradford in the future, and others, then it's only good news. It's clear and obvious that the sport does need more teams, to me, but it's got to be right. And I understand there's financial, the financial involvement to bring a club back is massive. So fair play to Oxford for doing that. And I know they had good crowds to the initial meetings, and I hope that continues for them because, it really is one of those things. Use it or lose it. And if we aren't supported and the clubs aren't supported, then it's not gonna pan out the way everyone wants it to pan out. But yeah, fantastic news for them, fantastic news for the area. I've not been to the track personally yet, although I plan to come across with Jack and have a couple look at a couple of meetings over there with him. But I've heard good things about the whole setup and the stadium. So hopefully they can continue and it inspires some others to come back into the fold.
Bit of a funny week last week for the Oxford Cheetahs because they raced Birmingham home and away, and in the leg last Tuesday at Sandy Lane it ended Oxford 42, Birmingham 48, meaning Birmingham took 3 points on the road, and then the rematch was 24 hours later at Perry Bar, and once again the two met, and once again it was the away side that won, with the Oxford Cheetahs taking the 3 away points. So honours even over the scheme of things between the two sides. Another couple of sides who've met home and away over the last 7 days are Edinburgh and Redcar. The first meeting was at Armadale last Friday, finished Edinburgh 48, Redcar 41, with Eric Riss the top scorer with 13 points, but Redcar coming away pointless ultimately. And then the second meeting between the two was on Sunday at the Echo Arena on Teesside, which was abandoned after 14 heats because of rain. There was a crash in Heat 15, and while they were sorting things out post that crash, the rain came down and it all got abandoned. And the result stands. Edinburgh claimed a point in that because it finished Redcar 45, Edinburgh 39. Once again, Eric Riss, the top scorer for the Redcar Bears, is having a great season so far. Ryan Nassau has been speaking with the German after that fixture at the Echo Arena last Sunday.
Yeah, good night. Track was quite difficult at the start. Track staff tried to make it a bit more grippy today. It was quite slick last week when we lost. So it was quite challenging in the beginning. My first race, I could hardly get around. Bike setup, I had to adjust. I made changes after my first ride, and then I was sweet, and then got 1 pay win and 2 wins.
Seemed a lot of material on the track tonight.
Yeah, it was very heavy. Yeah, it was very heavy, and you had to we couldn't use our normal setups, which was quite difficult because we had to adjust really quickly. We couldn't afford to lose, In the end, we won by 6, so that's the main thing.
And on to next week now. UK meetings for you. We've got Redcar Friday, Newcastle Sunday. Yeah. So we've got to be targeting 4 points at Newcastle, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. They're not the strongest team on paper in the league. Obviously, it depends which guest they get at number 1. But yeah, definitely need to go there trying to get 4 points.
And then a bit of a different meeting next week's Knockout Cup first leg, so it's about trying to build as much lead as possible.
Yeah.
But first of all, we've got to beat Berwick.
Yeah, definitely. Get as many points ahead as we can.
As Eric Riss, who's had such a terrific season this year. I know last year wasn't his greatest, but this year certainly seems to be going well in the Championship, and for the Ipswich Witches in the Premiership, he's certainly at least achieving and if not bettering his average. Alex Brady is our guest, the Kings Lynn team manager. Eric was part of the Kings Lynn side last year and a rider that you know very well.
Yeah, so Eric rode for us last season and did a job for us. And at the end of last year, we sort of shook hands together. We went to the Torren Grand Prix together, shook hands, and felt it's better for him to maybe go somewhere else and have a fresh approach. So he's gone to Ipswich for this season. He's doing well there, and I wish him all the best. So Louis, obviously riding for Redcar, did well on the Friday. He didn't have his best night on the Saturday or Sunday afternoon, should I say? But I'm sure he's someone I know that will get it right. And then Josh, obviously, for Edinburgh as well. So I watch these meetings with half an eye on making sure they make the 4 laps and get home again safely, but also to make sure that they keep their confidence rolling for what they're doing, because that's the nature of British Speedway. They're in different leagues and obviously different countries. Some of them, as Josh racing in Poland too. So yeah, it was from what I gathered from both of them, it was a couple of interesting meetings. The track was a little bit different for Redcar on the Sunday than what they're used to. Which I think was a bit of a leveller, and obviously Josh went out and Sam Masters broke the track record and Josh re-broke it. I think from what I gather, good weekend racing, and it was for both of them to get a win. Sets the championship table up nicely as well, because there's some front runners in that league, and they're a little bit way behind. But again, I think it's going to be like the Premiership. There's sort of the top 6 there is going to be really competitive, and interesting to see how that one pans out down there as well.
Yeah, Josh Pickering, the man to beat around the Echo Arena in Redcar right now. 52.8, the new track record. It was reset at the start of the season because of some track work, which is why it's been broken a couple of times. A couple of times in a meeting last weekend. But over the course of the season, it's obviously been broken a few times. But maybe Josh Pickering is the man to beat. We'll find out in good time. On the subject of the Championship League table, it's starting to settle down a bit now. Leicester have ridden quite a lot of meetings, 10 meetings so far. So they're top of the table at the moment, and everybody else is on 8 or 9. But of the sides on 8, you've got Poole Pirates on 8 meetings with 19 points. You've got Glasgow Tigers on 8 meetings with 20 points. 2 of the sides you'd expect to be up there. And then you've got the Plymouth Gladiators, 8 meetings ridden, 19 points. Level on meetings and points with the Poole Pirates. The Plymouth Gladiators got to be happy with that, and maybe they are going to be springing a bit of a surprise in the Championship this season, because their home form around the Coliseum has been absolutely incredible, and they've beaten all the big hitters so far. Glasgow have got to visit there yet, but they've dispatched Redcar, they've dispatched the Poole Pirates, and certainly seem to be on a roll.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Ben Barker's found some fantastic form at the Coliseum there, and Ben was with us at Kings Lynn last season. He's a really great guy, and he loves his racing. He's really found that enthusiasm again, and I think it's paying dividends for them. The Coliseum, I've personally not been. I plan to go later in the season, and I know it's a unique track compared to lots, so I expect the home form to be good. And I think, to be honest, in both leagues, if your home form is good and you can win the vast majority of your home meetings and pick up a few on the road, then you'll be in those playoffs. And yeah, they might have been a surprise pick for a few people, but I think they'll go well this year.
It's an interesting track, and we visited there a couple of weeks ago, and Michael Palm-Toft compares it to Peterborough, and he said it was very much like Peterborough, but smaller, and meaning the dimensions in terms of the proportions, I suppose, the bends and the straights are all proportionate, and it means that whilst it is a small track, you can still race relatively quickly around it on a speedway bike.
Yeah, I've tuned into a couple of their streams, to be honest, and it does produce good racing, which is perhaps surprising on the face of it, given the size of the track, but it looks a really cool place, and they're well supported as well. The crowds, from what I gather, are very, very good, and yeah, can only be good news that these sorts of clubs that have were here a few years ago, went away and come back again. It can only be good news that they're well supported, and most people like to support a winning team, and obviously if they can keep doing that at home, then hopefully that will, as I say, take them quite a way through to the season this year.
I have to say, and at least so far, on my travels around the various Speedway stadia, that the Coliseum is the only Speedway track I've visited that's got a full Polish sausage barbecue on the first and second turn. So they've got that. That is the thing to beat, ladies and gentlemen.
Sounds all right.
Smelt all right as well, I can vouch. Looking at the fixtures then, coming up this week in British Speedway and beyond, Birmingham Brummies versus the Poole Pirates on Wednesday at Perry Bar. We know the strength that Poole are going to bring, but you can't write off the Birmingham Brummies, and maybe a surprise there, because Perry Bar can be a bit of a tricky track sometimes.
I mean, obviously keen eye on that one with Richard Lawson racing for Poole, and just see how he goes. And they've got one heck of a top three for that league, and obviously well backed up by the Cook brothers and down at reserve too. So they'll be there or thereabouts. Birmingham, as you say, is a track that some people go well there, others don't. And I think the signing of Justin Sedgman actually could prove to be a bit of a shrewd one, to be honest. He started very, very well last week, and he's got a real point to prove. So I think that's going to be probably closer than what people might expect.
Moving to Thursday, we've got a couple of Premiership fixtures, not including the Kings Lynn Stars this time round, who have a break until Monday. But it's the Ipswich Witches versus the Wolverhampton Wolves. I've got to say, I think, we said that the whole of the Premiership is fairly well balanced, but these two sides have got equal strength in depth, I think, and particularly for Wolves, Sam Masters, his averages lately, he is one of the form riders, and I think, as we saw with Wolves against Sheffield, springing a surprise, can they do it again against Ipswich?
Yeah, Sam's excellent. When he came to Louis Kerr's testimonial just before the season began, second meeting of the year, he was fantastic, and he won that, and he won it, made it look pretty easy as well. And he's a brilliant rider, and I think with the Ipswich Wolverhampton meeting, it's one of those that could easily go either way. I could see it, without sitting on the fence, 10 points either side. I could see Ipswich winning it 50-40 or vice versa. I know Wolves would be keen to get some revenge after losing at home to them a couple of weeks ago. So I'll be again keeping a keen eye on that one to see how it goes. And I believe Eric Riss will be missing due to sort of long track commitments. So I think they're running RR for him that evening, which probably makes him slightly weaker. But Jason Doyle at number one is a fantastic rider, and the clashes between him and Sam will be, I'm sure, be well worth the money alone.
The other fixture on Thursday is at Oleton Stadium, where the Sheffield Tigers host the Bellevue Aces, one of the classic fixtures, Yorkshire-Lancashire rivalry. We've got Grand Prix stars involved, and the stage firmly set there. That's going to be a big one in South Yorkshire. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for sure. And I mean, if I was in the country, I would actually have probably gone to that, to be honest, and driven up. But I'm flying out early doors to Prague for the Grand Prix for the weekend. So unfortunately, I miss it. But that's got potential to be a real classic. And given the rivalry and the history between those two, I'm sure the crowd won't be disappointed after that one. And again, it's a really difficult one to call because I wouldn't have expected Sheffield to have lost last week. I would have called it a fairly routine Sheffield win. But if Matty Zagar is fit and firing all cylinders, then Bellevue could run really, really close and maybe even get something more than that. So it's going to be an interesting night of Speedway, and watching those updates come through. And I wouldn't like to call either meeting either way, to be honest, at the moment. Looking to Friday in British Speedway, we've got in the Championship Edinburgh Monarchs versus the Birmingham Brummies. That fixture will be live on the British Speedway Network on Friday night. Also on Friday in the Championship, we've got Knockout Cup action in the Championship. The Redcar Bears versus the Berwick Bandits, and the Scunthorpe Scorpions versus the Leicester Lions. And in the National Development League, we've got the Bellevue Aces versus Armadale. And also on Friday, it's the first of the GP2s, SGP2, the World Under-21 Championship, which will be in Prague. And then on Saturday, we've got the main event, the Speedway Grand Prix in Prague, the Czech Grand Prix, back at the Marketa Stadium. And Alex Brady, you will be there. I'm
really looking forward to the SGP2 on Friday night, just to see the quality of these youngsters out there. It's a shame there's no British riders within it, but it's obviously a story for another day. So. But if with the Grand Prix, it's going to be who can gate the best. It's going to be crucial. But as we saw a couple of years ago, Bartosz Marzlik, sort of long tracking down those straights, sitting on his back mudguard almost, he can find anything that works around there, so around anywhere. So it's going to be a good weekend of racing.
Yeah, and great that we've got so many British riders involved in this series now that fans can latch onto and cheer on. But I'm guessing that whilst you're going to be cheering on all the Brits, maybe Robert Lambert is the one that you're keeping a close eye on from a Kings Lynn perspective.
Well, I get on well with Robert, I get on well with Ty, and also Dan too. So it's difficult. I mean, I'd love to see a British 1, 2, 3 podium, but for the Kings Lynn perspective, yeah, of course it'd be great to see Robert win it. I'm really hoping that he can turn his, obviously he's unlucky in Warsaw to get 8 and not make the semi-finals. Croatia, just chasing set up a little bit, perhaps. It didn't quite work for him. And I know, Ty's too good to be, not making these finals as well. So, and Dan, I think he's learned a lot very, very quickly. So I'd love to see a British 1, 2, 3. But yeah, the Robert winning it would be a nice sweet one for sure.
Well, away from the Speedway Grand Prix in Prague, there is action in Great Britain with the Berwick Bandits hosting the Glasgow Tigers at Shieldfield Park in the Championship at 7 o'clock. And we've got the second leg of the Championship Knockout Cup tie between the Leicester Lions and the Scunthorpe Scorpions. And that fixture will be live streamed on the British Speedway Network on Saturday night. 7 o'clock tapes up, 6:30 the show will start. And we've got British Youth Championship action taking place at Edinburgh as well on Saturday. Looking ahead to Sunday, we've got a North East derby. It's the Tyne Tees derby, Newcastle versus Redcar in the Championship at 4 o'clock at Brough Park. And there's more British Youth Championship action taking place at Glasgow on Sunday as well from 2 o'clock. And then looking ahead to Monday, back in the Premiership and at the Adrian Flux Arena, the Kings Lynn Stars versus the Peterborough Panthers and the Wolverhampton Wolves versus the Sheffield Tigers, both getting underway at 7:30. And on Tuesday, just the one fixture, rounding off May with the Plymouth Gladiators versus the Edinburgh Monarchs, 7 o'clock at the Coliseum. And then after that, it'll be June. And we'll be back on the 1st of June with the next episode of No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast. My thanks to our guest, Alex Brady, team manager at the Kings Lynn Stars. Thanks for joining us, Alex, and all the best for whatever the season brings over the coming weeks and months. I'm sure we'll speak before the season's done, and we'll certainly hear you on this podcast one way or another, I'm sure. But all the best for all the challenges, the cup final, and whatever else may lay in your way.
Yeah, appreciate it, and it's going to be a fantastic few months ahead, and we're really lucky at Kings Lynn that we've been very, very well supported by the crowd, and I hope we can pull a few more in as well and get behind this team, because you've got an exciting one to watch, and they're winning too. So what more could you want?
Well, thanks, Alex. Enjoy Prague, enjoy the Grand Prix, and enjoy your fixtures coming up in British Speedway next week.
Appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
And, of course, thanks to you for listening as well. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast this week. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages if you haven't already. Just look out for British Speedway on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Not only will you get the results and reaction from the various meetings that happen, but if there's any last-minute changes like rain-offs or what have you, then they'll get shared on there as well. So make sure you're following us on there. And make sure you follow this podcast on whichever podcast app you choose to listen on, because whenever a new episode is ready, you'll get it automatically downloaded. You won't have to go searching for it. So follow us on there to not miss any of the future episodes coming your way every Wednesday through the Speedway season. Have a great week wherever you're watching your Speedway, whether that's live in person or on one of the live streams, and we'll be back to discuss it next Wednesday here on No Breaks, No Fear. Have a great week.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
Sports Social Podcast Network.